It is possible to create things of value that not only fit in, but add to nature. It's an actual collaboration between two artists, the sculptors and builders and the human artists and the artist of nature itself. We are on the island of Skyros, and we're headed down to Athens so that we can make our way up to Meteora. Before we really get into this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can see more videos like this one. Meteora is in the top 3 places that I want to go to in Greece. These monks built these monasteries on these spires that are unlike anything I've ever seen. You look at a place like Rome, Paris, the Vatican, or any of these places that are very, very old and incredibly beautiful. They were designed with intention, and that design has proven more valuable than anything in that area. I mean, the amount of monetary value that's brought in via tourism because of great design is incalculable. 9.5 hours, 60 nautical miles, averages 6.3 knots, which is great for us. That's an awesome speed. We're running for a good portion of it, beam reach for a little bit, then run. We have 28 miles to Liveaboard, and then from Liveaboard, we have 2 more sails to get to Athens. And so we are less than 100 miles from Athens, which is great. Got up the next day and there was no wind, and there was no wind forecasted, and so we just motored around the peninsula to get to a small town, stayed there for a day or two waiting for the wind again so that we could then sail to Liveaboard, and then from Liveaboard to Athens. Should take us 5 hours. We had rain last night. It will rain again today. It is less a question of whether or not we will get rained on and more a question of how much it wind. This is the kind of weather you have to sail in whenever you've committed to winter sailing and you've made a schedule and you need to be somewhere. So, time to go. You kind of just have to go with the wind and then deal with what the weather is actually like. The wind was good for sailing to Liveaboard, but the weather was not great. It was raining and it was cloudy and it was cold. And that's why we have heavy weather gear. You prepare for the situations that you're in, and then you take the opportunities as they come, because you don't want to miss an opportunity because you're underprepared. Luck is when opportunity meets preparation. As long as you're prepared, you can be very lucky, because then anytime there's an opportunity, you can seize that opportunity and make progress through life, and then people look at you and think you're incredibly lucky when really you're just prepared and paying attention. Docked in Liveaboard, and then the weather was forecasted in a couple days to be good for sailing to Athens, but then they're raising the alarm. Yeah, the wind just switched directions like a full 180. The original plan was to be leaving Liveaboard in about like now, except this storm was not on the forecasts that I've been looking at. The storm is coming towards us instead of going away from us, and the wind forecast was predicting the wind going that way, so we would have been sailing perfectly. And so that delayed us even further. It's been thunderstorms like the past couple days since we've been hanging out here in Liveaboard, but today it's time to head to Athens, and the forecast was supposed to be clear and we were supposed to be able to sail, but so far the forecast has been pretty much 100% wrong. So we might end up motoring tomorrow. We'll see if we can sail or not, but we might end up motoring again tomorrow. But then Saturday morning, it's supposed to blow like Buford's 10, so we'll want to be in a marina. And that just goes to show how unreliable sometimes weather forecasts are. It really depends on where you are in the globe and what type of wind is being predicted. But that came in and that delayed us, but then we were able to sail to Athens. If you're coming from the Aegean and you're going to Athens, you're always going to sail past the Temple of Poseidon. And so it's a nice landmark to remind you where you are, and then you know how far you are from Athens. The Temple of Poseidon, I mean, it's ancient now, so it's barely even there, but the ancient Greeks, I think, really found a way to build that was contributing to the scenery around them, right? Like they had a very beautiful way of building that added to nature. We made it to Athens the other day. Was like a storm. It was like 45 knots. Nah, maybe not 45, maybe like 35 to 40 knots of wind, but we're in Marina Alamos safe and sound. We have rented a car, and it is time to go to Meteora, the monasteries on the cliffs. A lot of modern building really subtracts, right? Like the amount of times you go to a beach or something like that, and there's just real gaudy development of hotels and resorts and everything around the beach, and you're like, wow, humans really kind of ruined this spot by building on it. It's a type of disrespect. When people don't take into consideration nature and what's actually around it, they have made that place less valuable. Just the fact that it's a beautiful spot to relax, that should be taken into consideration when you're building around it. On the way to Meteora, we stopped at the hot springs of Thermopylae, and somebody's telling me about how Hercules has been here. We made it to the hot springs. Over there behind the car is apparently a refugee camp, but these are the hot springs. It's supposed to be like 40 degrees Celsius. I'm excited for that. You're in the hot springs and you're thinking, wow, Hercules has been here. But it's so hard to imagine because they've built up this whole area around it just in a sense of like necessity of needing to build stuff, but they just built everything out of concrete and it detracts from the area. That being said, that spot was the best pit stop during a road trip ever. Drive for 3 hours, stop, lay in some hot springs for like an hour, and then get back up and drive another 2 hours and then end up in Meteora. That was legendary. Some things are too good to be completely ruined. Creating something that is aesthetically pleasing within its landscape and adds value to the vista is more valuable than just being something pretty to look at. Because before Meteora, I kind of always had the viewpoint that you see a beautiful vista and then you see a building, and maybe you don't think it consciously, but you normally think, or at least feel, this would be nicer if that building wasn't there. This view would be better if that building wasn't there. But sitting there, looking at Meteora, looking at the beautiful view there, the geography is absolutely unbelievable, first of all. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. And sitting there during the sunset, looking at the view and seeing the monasteries on top of the spires, it hit me that the monasteries contributed positively to the view. I thought this view, this landscape is better because of these monasteries. It's a monument to successfully creating something that is inspired by what's around it, and then using that inspiration and that creativity to then make something better, to take something and improve on it, which is arguably the best quality of humans. The monks and the people that built those monasteries and the architects behind it figured out a way to build something that contributed to nature and built something so integrated that just looking at it, you have a hard time telling where nature ends and the building begins. It's an extension of nature, which is the way that we're supposed to create. Instead of viewing ourselves as separate from nature and separate from the earth and reality, viewing it all as one thing and then figuring out how to create something that takes all of those things into account, which I think Meteora has done. Nature is the greatest artist. We can look at that and be inspired and then create on top of that and create with that. There is a way to build and create alongside nature that it adds to it and makes all of it better. They've done it so beautifully that they drove home that point to me that I had never really considered before, but always felt. Meteora proved me wrong.